If you've clicked on this video, you're probably stuck in a cycle of binging and restricting, and you feel like you don't have any willpower or discipline. But that's not the case. My name is Niam, I lost 50 kilos, and then I started to aggressively binge eat, and it was super painful. And I've managed to break free. And so in this video, I want to share with you the strategies that I use today to keep me on track, to feel in control, and to not be totally consumed by food all the time. So 99% of people don't realize that there is an invisible hand that is shaping your behavior at every single second. So let me tell you a story about the Vietnam War. It was the 1970s, and word got back to President Nixon that there was many soldiers in Vietnam that were being addicted to heroin. And this was quite alarming because at that point in history, it was widely believed that heroin addiction was irreversible and permanent. And so when President Nixon heard the news, he created a protocol to test the soldiers as they were coming in. And as a result of this testing, they were able to conduct a lot of research and understand this addictive substance way more. Now this relates to your binge eating, and I want to share the link back in a second. But what they found was actually really shocking, because at the time, 90% of heroin addicts who went to rehab would come back out and relapse. But when they tested the heroin soldiers over a 3-year period, they found that only 12% of the heroin addicts ended up relapsing when they came back to the US. And this tells us a very interesting story about addiction. Because most people think, like I said before, that it's about discipline or willpower, but clearly it wasn't. It was something else. You see, when heroin addicts in the US go to rehab and they come back out, they go back to the exact same environment that caused them to consume and get addicted to heroin prior to them solving the issue for themselves. They go to a place where there are no triggers, and then they come back where there are lots of triggers again, and so they get re-addicted. Whereas for the soldiers in Vietnam, they went to a place where there were lots of triggers. Heroin was really available. In fact, one of the soldiers mentioned that as he was getting off the plane in Vietnam, he got offered heroin by someone else. That's how available it was. Not to mention the stress and the exhaustion that was going on whilst they were part of the war. But then when they came back to the US, those triggers just weren't there. They weren't really that stressed, they weren't exhausted, it wasn't as available. And so very few of the soldiers stayed addicted. And so when you're thinking about your food addiction, it's important to think about the environment that you're in. Now for me, 12 months ago, I did something pretty drastic. I had just had a binge, and I remember this so vividly. I'd gone to the gym, well, I can't even say gone. I'd like literally dragged my feet there because I was feeling frustrated, I was feeling shameful. I was like, I just need to get out of the house. Cereal was like morphine to me. It was like the food that just caused me to binge so much, and I'd smashed loads. I'd gone outside, put it in the recycling bin because I just didn't want anyone to know about it. And I was like, okay, I need to get out of the house, go to the gym. And I was sitting on the cable seated row machine, and I thought to myself, after hearing this story, I was like, what if I just change my environment? Now for me, luckily I'd been in a different country, quite far away, for 2 months that year already. And I thought to myself, maybe I could just go back. So I thought about it for the rest of the day, and the next day in the morning I woke up, and the first thing that I did, without telling anyone else, was book a flight to across the world. And when I went to this country called Bali, I was able to completely change the environment that I was in. I could control what was in my fridge and in my cupboards, and I didn't have the same people around me, and so I was able to completely change my habits. I'm going to share in a second why actually that didn't happen, but I know that you're probably not going to be able to randomly book a trip to Bali and go there for 6 months to change your life, but you can make changes at home. You can not buy the food that is going to trigger a binge, or at least keep that food in a place that is hard to get to. What that does is that adds friction. Friction is an opposing force that is going to stop you from reaching for the snack that leads to 2, that leads to 3, that leads to 4, that ends up leading to like 100 snacks. And that's what makes you feel crap. If you can keep it far away and you can put obstacles in your path that stop you from reaching for the first snack, then it's going to stop you from having the 10th snack. In the same way, if you buy healthy food in the house or whole foods that are minimally processed, then the likelihood of you eating those foods and having fewer cravings is going to increase. In the same vein, if you buy fewer of the crappy foods like the crisps, the chocolate, the ice cream, the cereal that makes you binge, then you're less likely to have the snack and have cravings as a result of eating those foods. But when I got to Bali, I did all those things. Obviously, I didn't have anything in my fridge, but then I still had my phone, and there's an app called Grab. And if you don't know what Grab is or Gojek is, it's the Asian version of Uber Eats or DoorDash if you're in the USA. And the problem was that I was constantly ordering stuff to my house. I was constantly ordering food at late at night, specifically like cookies and chocolate and different things on random occasions. And so even though I completely changed my environment, I still struggled. And so when I was over there in another country without my family, head in my hands, thinking to myself, what am I gonna do now? I had to come up with a different solution. And so I started to reflect on my journey a little bit more. It's been 2.5 years now since I got fired from my data science job in London. I'm glad that it happened, but at the time, I decided to start a business. I started to coach people online. Because I've lost a lot of weight, I figured I could help others. But when you see success online of people doing well in business, you don't realize that before they get the success, it's a road which is pretty uncertain. And so when I went through that period of sheer uncertainty of figuring out what to do and also building a skill set that I'd never even touched before, I felt pretty overwhelmed. And so that's actually when the binging got worse. Every time that I'd sit down to film a video like this or try and do something for my business, because I didn't know how to do it, I would go and procrastinate. And the first thing that I would look to when I would procrastinate would be the food that I would eat. Because I had no manager down my neck or someone telling me what to do or when to be in the office, I kind of was given free reins. And so I'd wake up in the morning, and even though I'd told myself that I was gonna work and be disciplined, the snacks were so close by that I was like, oh, that's an easier thing to do. My monkey mind in my brain couldn't decide to do the work. It just chose the easier path time and time again, which became this cycle of restricting and binging. And so when I was in Bali and I had the time and the space to reflect, I realized that I need to start treating my work as if I had a job. You see, most people leave 9 to 5 thinking that they're gonna get loads of freedom, but actually you end up working way more and earning less money. And you actually have to treat it like you're in a job, especially at the beginning. And so one of the things that I've started doing now, which is the best thing in the world for me, and I'm sure it will help you too, is every night after I finish my days of work, I sit down and I plan my day for the next day. I plan what work I'm gonna do, what time I'm gonna wake up, what I'm gonna do in the gym, and specifically what time I'm gonna eat food. It was just half an hour ago today where I had the urge to go and eat a snack. But because I know that in 2 hours I'm gonna have my lunch, which I've planned and I'm really looking forward to, I was able to avoid the snack. But if I didn't have the plan, the cost of having the snack would have been a lot lower, and it would have caused me to then go and have it. And who knows, that might have ended up in a binge. And so what I'm trying to say is that the structure and the routine that you can give yourself for your meals can become a foundation that you can rely on so that you don't end up binging. If you like this video, check out this video here where I share the single habit that has reduced the number of cravings I have every single day tenfold. Peace.